Om Sang Saraswati Namaha. Namaste. Namaste, everyone. On page 154, we'll start with verse 36. Sanada ki laksanyaste samudastur hudayudam akimeta diti krodad avashak mahishat suraha avyada bhatatam sabdam asheshvir surhir vritam Sadana Shatato Devin Vyakalokan Trakantisha Padakantya Tatabubam Kirito Liki Tamparam Shobita Shesha Papalam Tanujani Svanenatam Dishopuja Sahasrena Samanta Vyapya Sanstitam Tataha Prapavrite Yudam Tvaya te vyasura risham Shastrasrir bhakundamuktir Adi pita digandaram Mohishasura senanish Chikshurakyo mahasura Yuyude chamarasthanyesh Chaturanga balambita Ratana mayudir sabir Udagrakyo mahasura Ayudyata yutanancha Sahasrena mahahanu Panchasabdishya niyatir Osulova makasura Ayutanamcha takir sabir Bashkalo yudirine Gajabati sahasragir Anekir pariparita Brito ratan kotyacha Yude tasmina yudata Didalakyo yutanancha Panchasha divratati Yuyude sanyuge tatra Ratamam pariparita Anyecha tayadutasho Ratanaga hajri vrita Yuyudu sanyuge divya Sahatatra mahasura Koti sahasrestu Ratanandantinam tata Hayanam chavrito yude Tatabun mahishasuraha Tomari bindi palishcha Shakti vir kusales tata Yuyudu sanjuke divya Kargai parashu patishay Tichicha tichu pushakti Kichipan Shastatapare Devin Karka Praharestu Titanantu Prachakmu Tapi Devi Tatastani Shastranastrani Chandikam Lilaki Vatachicheda Nija Shastrastra Vashini Anayastana Devi Stuyaman Hasrashibi Momochasuradehishu Shastrani Chishri Soapikrudo Tukasato Devyapa Anakesri Chachara Surasenyeshu Panesh Pivakutasana Nishwashamu Mateyamsha Yudimano Ratendika Takiva Sadhya Sambuta Ganahashatasakasasha Yuduste Parashabi Bindi Palasi Patise Nashayanto Suraganan Devi Sakyu Prabrihita Abadaganta Patahan Ganaha Sanstatapre Rindagasta Tatevanye Tasmin Yuddha Papotre Tato Devi Trishulena Gadaya Shakti Prishtibi Kargakshastasya Patasya Nijagana Makasuran Patayamasta Chevanyam Ganta Swamami Mohitan Asuran Duritasena Badwa Chanyana Karshikat Kechit Vida Kritsas Taksne Kargapatista Tapre Dipotita Dipatena Gadaya Bhumi Sevate, Vimuscha Chichi Rudiram, Musalena Prishankatam, Chandi Path Bhumao, Vinasunena Paksasi, Nirantarasharogena, Ridakachitrinachare, Shainana Karanan Pranam, Muchistri Dasharana, Keshamas China, Banas Chinas, Nachinas Grivas Tatamare, Siram Tipeter Ramyesham, Anye Mate Vidarda, Vichina Jangras Tatamare, Viturustam Yembakasaram, Ekapatwachi Charada, Techide Yadvidaj Krita, Chine Pichani Sirasi, Patita Purustita, Kabanda Yududivya, Grihita Paramayuda, Nandrisya Japareta Pra, Yude Tuyal Vakashita, Kabanda China Sirasa, Kakasha Krishti Paraya, Tishna Tishne Dibashanto, Devi Mane Mahasura, Padite Ratanariswa, Asurishja Vastundara, Agamya Sasababatatra, Yatrabutsa Maharana, Shori Toga Mahanadya, Sadya Hastatra Vasutsubu, Mande Chasura Sanyasya, Praranasura Bajinam, Kshanina Tamahasainyam, Asurama Katambika, Niyechayam Katamanish, Trina Daru Mahachakam, Satyasimo Mahanadam, Utri Jandu the Kesara, Shuribhyo Mararinam, Asuni Babi Chimbati, the Agonista Tatram, Ritangyudam Makasurai, Yateshantu Tushudeva, Pushpa Brishti Mochodimi, Om. And let us return, let's go back to verse 35, because that's really a lot of fun. With great satisfaction, and that's no joke, it's a lot of fun. With great satisfaction, the wise people praise the image of their worship, bowing with devotion. It wasn't just they praised her, it was a lot of fun. It was really a trip to praise her. They got to do it. It was a privilege. With great satisfaction, they praised the image of their worship, bowing with devotion. Now, seeing the three worlds in such a commotion, the army of thoughts, the enemies of the immortals, that's us, the army of thoughts adorned their armor, took up their weapons, and stood together. The great ego, in excessive anger, exclaimed, "Ah, what is this? Who dares to make disturbance in my kingdom where the ego is the ruler? What's all this purity banding together thinking they're going to cause the demise of the ego? What nonsense! Bakwas!" Then, along with all the other thoughts that had assembled ready to attack, just sit down, try to meditate, and see how many thoughts assemble ready to attack. All armed, wearing their armor, bearing their swords and their spears and their other weapons. Along with all those thoughts that is assembled ready to attack, he ran towards that ultimate sound and saw the illumination of the goddess pervading the three worlds. Now remember, in our introduction we said in one sense she's inside the worshiper, and in another sense she's on the altar of worship. And again, her feet cover the earth, and the top of her crown reaches to the highest extremes of the atmosphere. And he saw the illumination of the goddess pervading the three worlds. Her That's Atal, Patal, the lower 7 regions. We know the higher 7 regions. We don't spend a lot of time studying the names of the lower ones. Sorry guys, I haven't spent that much time there recently, and I can't even recall their names. The 1,000 arms of this goddess pervaded all the directions established. And then began the battle between the goddess and the thoughts, the enemies of the god. Every thought is an enemy of the gods because the gods want to be quite thoughtless. We have only one thought. Mom! Many kinds of weapons illuminated the entire atmosphere in flight. And a very powerful general of the great ego named devoid of clear understanding rose to do battle. Just see this general devoid of clear understanding. I just don't understand. Should I do this puja or should I do that puja? Oh, let me debate it for a while longer. Should I worship this goddess or should I follow that guru or this guru? I just don't I am devoid of clear understanding. Fickleness waged battle with his 4 divisions, and it's called the Chaturanga Sena. The 4 divisions of horses, that's the cavalry, elephants, chariots, and infantry of great strength. Ever see fickleness? I'll dig a little over here, and then I'll dig a little over there. And I'll dig a little over there, and I'll dig many, many, many shallow wells. If you can dig it. And one named Haughtiness joined with hundreds of chariots. I just came to test you, Guru, to see if you're the right Guru for me. A little bit haughty and puffed up with pride, I just want to give you a test. With hundreds and thousands, the great deceiver. And you know that general doesn't only try to deceive others, he usually ends up deceiving himself in the process. He's the great deceiver. Everything is a pretense. He's so much concerned with creating the attitude, the appearance, the exterior facade of being a great sadhu that he never has time to do the sadhana. He's the great deceiver. With his army of 10 million foot soldiers, want of resolution, a great thought came to the battle. I don't know what to do, and I don't have a sankalpa to do it. I'm just going to wait until I'm moved. I'm not going to do it on my own. Why shall I take the initiative? I don't know which is the correct way. I am devoid of clear understanding. I am fickle. I'm a great deceiver, and I don't have a sankalpa. Look at me. I'm a great spiritual warrior. Certainly I should be the honored guest in every ashram I visit. Even though I have no sankalpa, I have a want, a lack of resolution. I haven't resolved yet, defined my objective. I haven't defined the goal. How can I take the sankalpa without defining the goal? With tens of millions of soldiers, memories enter the battlefield. Oh my gosh, just sit there and close your eyes. Just think what comes into the tens of millions of all those soldiers. I'm a little memory. Do you remember when that happened? Do you remember that event? Just look in your own meditations. How many movies we get to see. Oh, I remember that. And with thousands of elephants and horses wandering to and fro. Oh, well, maybe I should go see that sadhu. Oh, I got blessed by that saint. Oh, I'll go see that ashram. oh, I'll do this, I'll do that. I'll just wander around a little bit until I'm ready to sit down and do the heavy lifting. Hypocrisy joined in the fighting with 5,000 chariots assembled, and moreover tens of millions of great thoughts. Just think of how many hypocritical attitudes we project. Look at the hypocrisy of our lives. We claim to be spiritual, and yet we can't organize ourselves. I even put my socks under the bed. Isn't that a hypocrisy? Wandering to and fro, fought there. He in that battle with his chariot racing about, and others kept coming there with tens of millions of chariots, elephants, and horses. This is a battle. And the great thoughts fought there in that battle with the goddess. Uncountable thousands of warriors, chariots, and elephants accumulated there. They're taking this seriously. Hey, thoughts, I'm just a little meditator. I'm just a puny little sadhu. Huh? You don't need such a humongous army to defeat me. But I have the goddess on my side. Now look at all of the Asuras keep coming to try to force the gods and goddesses to get up from their asanas. Get up, you lazy bums. Serve the ego, they proclaim. The great ego is the king of the three worlds, and anyone who does anything does it for the ego. Why are you trying to put an end to this ego? Serve the ego or wage war. Certainly every time we see any of these thoughts, who's the seer? Cogito ergo sum. I think. Therefore, I am. And who is that I? Me! The one who's separate from thee. And if there's separation, there's ego. Wandering to and fro says, let's try over there. Maybe there's a better teaching over there. One of resolution says, oh, this is too hard to learn. Let's try something else. Don't forget about fickleness, haughtiness, and memories. Oh, what a formidable opponent memories is. We sit down to meditate and go to the movies instead. We watch all the old memories playing like incessant videotapes inside. They're looping. And we become a little looped. Let's look at our cast of demonic warriors so far. Chikshu is devoid of clear understanding. Chamu, that's the fly whisk. He's on this side and then he's on that side. He's fickleness. Udagra is haughtiness. Mahahanu, the great deceiver. Asilama, want of resolution. Mashkalo, memories. Purivarita, wandering to and fro. Bigala, hypocrisy. Those are the generals that we've met so far in the battle today. Every one of them is constantly proclaiming the greatness of the ego. They come with uncountable thousands of heroic warriors, imploring us to give up the search for divinity and surrender to egotism and attachment. This is silly. This is too hard. It's a waste of time. Here I have so many neat things to do, and I bet you there's something better on TV tonight. Now, why don't I just pop open a cold one, flick on, where's the remote? How do I get this guy out of my living room? There's no remote. There's got to be something better to do. Just look at the cast of characters, at these generals coming to attack us. Every time we sit silly Swami going on and on and on. The great ego on his horse chose to join there in the battle with his large javelin, his small javelin, his energy, and his mace. Some fought and fought in that battle and tried to strike the goddess with their swords, with their battle axes, with their spears, and other thoughts with their energies, and moreover, they tried to bind her with their nets. We'll capture that goddess. Hey, you come down from that altar. You can't just sit there illuminating the three worlds. Come down here. We'll bind you, and then we'll see who's the boss. When the energy of the universe is servant to the great ego, then my ego will know no bounds. I can be the greatest ego. They were trying to kill her, the goddess, with blows from their swords, while the goddess, she who tears apart thought, attacked with her many and various weapons. Playfully, the goddess rained a shower of her own weapons and mantras, which cut all their weapons to pieces, while the gods and seers praised her with faces filled with delight. Everybody smile! Their faces were filled with delight and minds filled with divinity. All we know is the privilege and the pleasure and the joy and the delight of having you on our side. Thanks, Mom. And the Supreme Goddess, with her various weapons, caused thoughts to abandon their bodies. Yeah, they became unmanifest. And he, that hairy terrier, the lion of the goddess, shaking his mane in anger, he strolled through that army of thoughts like a forest conflagration. And the Mother of the Universe fought on in that battlefield, causing them, all the thoughts, to give up. Each expiration of her breath immediately gave birth to multitudes, all of them numbering in hundreds and thousands, fighting in the battle with axes, javelins, swords, and spears. Victory to the gods and goddesses! Now, all the voices that have been chattering in our minds, all those thoughts, we give to each a form and then cut it down. Just push them to the sidelines. They are no longer contenders in the conquest for peace. They perish before the Divine Mother like grass and timber in a forest conflagration. With the pranayam of the recitation of her mantras, she takes control of the life force and she gives birth to multitudes of warriors in her army. Each expiration of her breath. You see, if you inhale the Bij mantra or the Mool mantra and you exhale the mantras of the Shaptashati, of the text, each expiration becomes more soldiers in her army. Every time you exhale, you're breathing out more force, more energy into the army of divinity. So then we get to breathe in. Let's breathe in Om Eng Ring Kling Chamundali Biche, the Mool mantra of the Chandi. And exhale and pronounce Nasayanto Subraganan Devi Shakyuta Brigitara Padakyanta Patahangana Hasanta Tatapare Mritangat Tatay Tasmin Yuta Mahosve Tato Devi Trishulina Gadaya Sakti Prishtivi. And every time we exhale, we're energizing the forces of divinity to conquer those thoughts. And every time we inhale, we are energizing the Divine Mother within us. We're strengthening her, wielding her immense energy. Moreover, the goddess destroyed numbers of thoughts while sounding her conch. She was beating on the drum and also other instruments in that festival of battle. All the kirtan, all the drumming, all the cymbals, all the clapping. When the goddess caused her trident club and energy to fall like rain, they just cuts the Asuras to pieces. They can't stand when we're all submerged in the pure devotion, in the nectar-like devotion of demonstrating the sincerity of our sadhana to the Supreme Goddess. With her sword and other weapons seized, she sent hundreds and hundreds of the great thoughts to their deaths. Wow, we're going to be quite thoughtless in no time at all. The terrible noise of her bell stunned many others to unconsciousness, and they were destroyed. Many thoughts were bound by the net and were dragged to the earth. Moreover, many thoughts were cut into two by the sharp edge of her sword. Whoosh! How many thoughts struck by the club? Remember, that club was the club of articulation. Every time we recite the mantra, we beat another Asura over the head with a club. And the wounded fell to the earth. How many were struck by the mace and becoming extremely injured, they vomited blood. Remember, all this blood is rakta, and that's the blood of passion. We're losing all of the misdirected passion. It's all spilled out on the floor, all spilled out on the ground. We have no more misdirected passion that's going to get us into trouble. We only have passion for one thing, and that is the love of God. Some thoughts pierced in the breast by the pike of concentration, fell to the earth in a heap. Some thoughts were cut apart on the battlefield by a rain of arrows. And remember, the arrow, the bow of determination and the arrow of one-pointed attention. As the armies of the tormentors of the gods approached, all those thoughts, all those demons, there were many whose arms were cut, whose necks were cut, and moreover they gave up their lives. The heads of the great thoughts fell, and many others fell, being cut at the midsection, separated at the hips, or divided at the thighs. Some were cut into two pieces by the goddess, and others even cut with one foot or arm, or even with their heads fallen. They rose again. The headless horseman. Just another thought. He just lost his head. And how many of our thoughts just lose their heads and keep coming back anyway? We argue ourselves into understanding the fallacy of that proposition. We understand absolutely that argument is without merit. He lost his head. It's got no value whatsoever. And then we sit down and close our eyes and try to meditate again, and that same thought comes back. What are you doing here? You have no head. You have no logic. You have no reason. I've already put you to rest. I've already argued myself out of your desire. Why are you here again? Decapitated bodies took up excellent weapons and fought with the goddess. And others, hearing the music being played in the battle, danced there. Other great thoughts, with their heads thus cut, with swords, spears, and energies still in their hands, called again and again to the goddess, "Stop! Stop!" She came there where that great battle took place, with the thoughts, elephants, horses, and chariots fallen to the earth. At that time, time, there was a great river of blood in the middle of the armies of thought, flowing from the elephants, horses, and thoughts. They all gave up their passion. There was no more passion for anything worldly. They just gave up all their energy, all their passion, all of their capacity to attract our perceiving capacity. They had no longer any capacity to attract our perception. Then, within an instant, that gigantic army of thoughts perished before the mother of the universe, just as grass and timber are reduced to ashes by a great fire. Thanks. The lion was roaring with a great sound, and when the enemies of the gods heard it, they lost all their thoughts and gave up their bodies. And there, where that battle took place with the multitude of great thoughts and with her, the gods experienced peace and with satisfaction showered the earth with flowers. Om. Let's see if there are any questions. Please, Gauri.
So these thoughts, the headless thoughts, so how do they come back? What if they don't, if we've already argued them out of existence or something?
We didn't argue them out of existence, we argued them out of their logic. We don't agree with them. They're not good thoughts. We'd already cut off their heads, and still they have the power to come back again and again and again. Anybody who recites the Chandi, if you pay attention to the Chandi, even if you get a few verses to pay attention to, you're very fortunate. Most of the time, you're battling with the thoughts. The thoughts are coming to you and say, do you remember when that happened? Huh? What are you doing here anyway? Why don't you go over there? This is too hard. Why don't we find something easier? Why don't we find something more rewarding? Huh? Do you know what that guy said to me today? Do you know what I have to do next month? And those thoughts, and we're reading the Chandi and our mouths are saying the words and the syllables, and here we are breathing in the mantra and breathing out the mantra, and the thoughts! Just a myriad of thoughts. And some of the thoughts we say, oh my God, not you again. I've seen how much time, how long are you, how long, my Lord? How long must we wait until you get out of my mind? I mean, that's a thought from my childhood. Here I am with a long gray beard. What are you doing here still? So I cut off his head. I saw him, and I saw him again. And I bet you I'm going to see him again until I can just see that thought without judgment, without condemnation, without self-conceit, without self-deprecation, without all the critics of the movies. I just see. And then he has no more power. When I become the seer, that thought becomes a manifestation of nature. Aim, ring, cling, chamundai, viche. It's dancing on the stage of consciousness. I am the seer without reaction, without passion, without any attraction or repulsion. And then the thoughts will leave us. When the Divine Mother will take away all the passion from the thought, he no longer has the capacity to bind us. We just see it. And then we see her. And then the choice is ours. Which do we want to look at? The thought, or the mother who takes away all the thoughts? Namaste. Are there other questions?
Swamiji, so is that our goal to try to be at all times like that, just looking at our thoughts and doing whatever karma we have to do?
Rami, whenever we are attached to the thought, and we have a prejudice, a bias, a point of view, we are not Savarni. Savarni is with all colors, castes, tribes, with everything. He's a seer. When we have one point of view, it automatically excludes the others. So we don't learn, we don't see what is, we see our point of view, what we think about what is. So we're always projecting on experience. Every experience is translated into the projection of, I don't like that, or I do like it. Now, when we can diffuse those projections and just see, then we become Shiva, the seer, who sees and acts in the optimum efficiency in every circumstance, because he's the seer. That's the goal.
Swamiji, a question from Srini.
Hi Srini Baba, namaste.
He's asking, on a daily basis, how do we monitor if we are truthful in thought, word and action?
You know when you blow it. Anytime circumstances present themselves to you, Srini Baba, we just need to find a little workaround. I don't want to tell why, but I've got to find an alternative way of bringing about the outcome that I'm seeking. Now, can I do that within the boundaries of truth? Or do I tend to stretch the truth a little bit? Not quite lie. I don't tell lie. Suck in the Ryan Bhagwan But do I tend to stretch the truth a little bit and maybe put my shadow over the line? You know, and you can see it. And then we have a determination to make, and we make it several times a day, every one of us. Do I really want to cross that line? Or is it enough that I have the shadow over the line? And then either we sacrifice our goal or we sacrifice our truth. And that's a determination we make several times every day, every one of us. Did I leave the plate in the sink? If I left the dish in the sink, then I sacrificed my truth. It's a sacrifice of truth because I have a sankalpa to never be a burden to anybody else, to never leave my mess for another one to clean up. I'm a sadhu. I have a sankalpa to live the life of a sadhu. If I left the dish in the sink, I'm a liar. I breached my contract. Now, maybe there were some extenuating circumstances which allowed me to leave the dish in the sink. Srima called, and I have to go immediately. Or something else. But look at the reality of our lives, Srini Baba, and everybody. We can readily see that you're faced with this dilemma several times during every day. Am I giving the most and taking the least? That's the definition of spiritual. Or am I taking the most and giving a little bit less? And then hypocrisy comes and says, yeah, it's okay, because you're spiritual. You deserve it, honey. You deserve it, baby. You're spiritual. That's okay. You don't have to wash the dish. You don't have to give the most in every circumstance. You're spiritual. One of our spiritual organizations last week, we found they took some of my books and they just cut them up and pasted them and Xeroxed them with their name on it. Because they're spiritual. They don't have to pay. They don't have to ask for permission because we're using it for a good purpose. In this way, all of us, each of us, is confronted every day by the limits of truth. And those that will tell us, Shriti, how far do you go? Every one of us makes that determination every day.
Question from Pratibha. Namaste Swamiji. How can we experience small gaps of stillness during the hustle and bustle of daily activities with hypocrisy, fickleness, anger, bad thoughts?
Pratibha, there's only one way to do it, and that's to just take a couple of minutes from time to time and check out. Just close off your senses. I'll give you a little fun exercise you can do right now. I hope you can see it clearly. Take your baby fingers and your ring fingers and put them over your mouth. Just on both sides of your lips. Take your middle fingers and close your nose. Take your pointer fingers and touch your eyeballs. And take your thumbs and stick them in your ears. Every now and then, take a breath. And the light will change from orange until yellow. Then it becomes bright white. And inside you hear the ocean, the oceans of the inner being. And it's a wonderful way just to close off and retreat from time to time. Even sitting at your desk, just close off and retreat.
Question from Morning Song.
Namaste, Morning Song.
I'm wondering about the difference between being distracted by the asuras from our path and seeing truth in many places. If we maintain our sankalpa and remain focused on our spiritual goals, can this sankalpa include teachings from various traditions? Or is that considered digging many shallow wells? Or can we consider this to be a way of strengthening, deepening our understanding?
Oh, absolutely. It's important to learn from many sources. But ultimately, when you cultivate your practice, when you'll take the inputs you've got from many sources and you will narrow them down and say, this is the path for me. Because it may be that you want to rejoice in one tradition and celebrate in another tradition and dance in another tradition and meditate in another tradition. But ultimately, when we come into our spiritual, into deepening the relationship, we're going to choose one language and one heritage and one tradition, and we'll start going deeper and deeper into that. It's necessary to have the taste of many traditions in order to cultivate our own. But once we've decided and defined what that tradition is, then we just go for it.
A question from Kumari from Valley Hope.
Namaste, Kumari Ma.
Pranam Swamiji. In some traditions, self-deprecation is considered a spiritual virtue, one that attenuates the ego. The Chandi seems to say that it's equal to self-conceit as a manifestation of the ego. Can you please explain? Thank
Absolutely. Yes, you're very right. Self-deprecation says I. Self-conceit says I. And that's what they have in common. Self-conceit is a negative I, and self-conceit is a positive I, and self-deprecation is a negative I. But both say I. So I, and that's the ego. As soon as I am there, then the ego is manifest. And the only ego that we want to share is Aham Brahmasmi, Shiva Aham. I am one with Shiva. I am the Supreme Divinity. Other traditions confuse self-deprecation with humility. They are not the same thing. Humility says, I respect you, and it lifts the other up. Self-deprecation says, I don't respect me, and I put myself down. And that's a confusion that comes in, and that's how it becomes equated as being one, self-deprecation as a virtue. It's not really. What we want is the self.
Swamiji, question from Nilima Agarwal from New Delhi.
Namaste, Nilima. Namaste, Sanjay.
Namaste Swamiji. Some thoughts perished with only her breath and some by her lying, but for a few she had to use more force. Can you please explain this? Thank you very much.
Yes, Nilima, she has so many weapons at her disposal. The sword of wisdom, the shield of faith, the conch shell of vibrations, the discus of revolving time. It takes patience. Some, she, through the expiration of her breath, was through the processes of pranayama. By reciting the Chandi Path with pranayama, many asuras give up. But sometimes there are still others that don't. They still hang on and want to attack. And for those she uses wisdom. For others she uses inspiration. For others she uses tapasya and practice. And for others she uses refinement of the practice. For each of the various kinds of thoughts, they all have a different intensity, and some of them don't give up easily. Some of them take more work than others. You know in your own mind how many thoughts will go or exit just on a request. Very few. If you say, please don't come to me, thought, they come harder. And so sometimes we need wisdom, sometimes we need inspiration, sometimes we need the grace of Srima. That's, every set of thoughts has a different upai, a different means of disposing of them.
A question from Arnav Nandi from Bangalore.
Namaste, Arnav.
Arnav asking, what is the purpose of Mother Nature installing all the asuras inside me? Why is the path in spirituality renouncing everything Mother Nature has installed in me?
Very good question, Arnav. Dharma or dharma habir ditva atmana manase shrucha aham eva aham mam juhomi shvaha. Dharma and adharma, devas and asuras, ideals of perfection and contrary to the ideals, all the opposites. Habir Dipwa are all oblations, they're all the hobby to the deep, to the fire. Atman Manase, my soul, is being offered by the mind. Shrucha, it's the shruva. The mind is using the shruva, the spoon that offers the adharma and the dharma to the soul. Aham eva, aham mang, and it's only me, offering to me. Jewel me, swaha, make the offering, swaha. Arnab, it's inherent within the creation where there is dharma, there will be adharma. Where there is a positive, there will be a negative. Where there is two, there's going to be a plus and a minus. There's just got to be opposites in duality. And if she filled you full of divinity, then I guess the asuras have to be there as well. Now, in our quest for living perfectly in harmony with divinity, we're going to submerge those thoughts, those asuras, and we're going to put them at the feet of the Divine Mother. We're going to dump them in the ocean of devotion and come out just as pure devotees of the Divine Mother.
A question from Srini. How do we set goals for focus when we are chanting the Chandi? Goals in which we can evaluate our progress in our intensity of concentration.
Srini, you don't have a goal or several goals in chanting the Chandi. We have master plan and we have a sankalpa to chant the Chandi as part of our master plan. But if you use the Chandi as an opportunity to rehearse your things to do list and create goals, then you're going to be a servant of thought. The thoughts are still there. So the idea isn't to have goals in chanting the Chandi. The idea is to have one goal to chant the Chandi and understand what I'm chanting. To think about the story, to think about the application, to think about the meaning. How does this apply to me? Can I see, witness the Divine Mother cutting down my thoughts? Look at my thoughts going into the fire. Look at my thoughts leaving me. I have only her. I can see them. Now I am devoid of all of these qualities and characteristics. I am slaying all of these generals, Chikshura, Chalara, devoid of clear understanding, fickleness, haughtiness, the great deceiver, want of resolution, memories, wandering to and fro, hypocrisy. These are the generals in chapter 2. In chapter 3, there are going to be a few more. And each one of these generals is going to meet his demise at the hands of the Divine Mother. That's the goal. I want to witness the demise of the generals of thought. Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste.